Growing up in Wisconsin, I was convinced that I was my mother's favorite child. Why would I think that? Because whenever I went outside to play, my sister Jenny, who was 5 years older than I was, she had to come too. So one day, my mom's friend, Gloria Buckle, came over with her 8-year-old son, Mark. Mark was a boy, but he was close to my age because I was 7, and he was willing to play. So as the mothers are talking, we had to be really quiet. I got tired of being really quiet, and I asked, could we go outside to play? And my mom was like, yes, go out to play. Jenny, you're gonna have to go outside with Linda. Now, going outside to play in the winter in Wisconsin was quite the production. First, I had to go use the bathroom. I had to try, and after I was successful, I had to put on wool tights, 2 pair of wool socks, and then I'd get the Wonder Bread bags, you know, the ones with the blue and red circles, and I'd slide them up over my socks, hold them with a rubber band, fold them over neatly. Then I'd put on 2 sweaters. Then I'd put on my corduroy pants, slide my feet into my rubber boots. Nothing was insulated then. And I had to make sure that the pants were on the outside of the boots, otherwise snow could get in and get my feet wet. Then I'd put on my coat, button it up, put on wool gloves, put on wool mittens, put on a wool hat, put on my hood, and then wrap a scarf around me. And I was now ready to go outside and play. So Mark and I went outside, and my sister Jennifer had to come too, and we played. We could do whatever we wanted to. Well, the first thing I wanted to do was to hit him with a nice, fat, squishy snowball. So we had a snowball fight. And then we went sledding, made snow angels, made a snowman, all sorts of things. He wanted to build a fort, but that was going to take too long. And after a while, I kind of got bored. And that's when I saw it. The light was glinting off a pond just beyond the barn. Mark, we could go skating. No, we didn't have skates. We didn't know how to skate. We just had rubber boots. But we trudged through the snow, past the barn, to the pond, and then I remembered. My dad had said, you can't play on the pond until an adult checks it out. Well, Jenny didn't count, she was only 12. So it was up to me. So with my 7-year-old little foot, I touched the edge of the pond, nothing happened. So I jumped on with 2 feet, nothing happened. So I jumped up and down, and nothing happened. Okay, Mark, it's safe. So Mark and I got on the pond and started sliding this way and gliding this way. And after a while, he goes, well, we would go further if you'd give me a little push. Okay. Mark was 8. He was bigger than I was, but I could still push him. So I gave him a little push, and he went further, and he pushed me, and I went further. And after a while, he goes, can you give me a super duper push? Yeah. I reared back, closed my eyes, and ran at him, and I shoved him as hard as I could. When I opened my eyes to see how far he went, he wasn't there. Well, where did he go? And then his head popped out of the pond. Jenny, Mark fell in the pond. So Jenny had been on the edge of the pond, breaking off cattails and blowing them in the wind. So she dropped what she was doing and she rushed over. She knelt down at the end of the ice and she He'd gone down once, he'd gone down twice, and she reached in and pulled his head up. But he was a big 8-year-old, and he had a sopping wet jacket. She couldn't pull him out of the pond. So she goes, Linda, run to the house, tell Mom what happened, and get the fire department. And I took off running. And I'm running as fast as my little 7-year-old legs could. And I finally reached the house, and I burst in the back door into the kitchen where my mom is talking to Gloria, her friend. And I'm going, Mom, Mark fell in the pond. Get the fire department. And all my mother had to say is, Linda, you don't interrupt when adults are talking. So I'm wiping the tears and the snot off my face, and I'm going, Mom, Mark fell in the pond. Get the fire department. And again, she told me, you go outside and play and leave us alone. Trying to catch my breath, I turned to Mrs. Buckle. And with tears streaming down my eyes, I said, Mrs. Buckle, Mark fell in a hole in the pond. Ginny's holding his head up out of the water. She sent me to get help. She wants you to send the fire department before they both drowned. And something clicked. And Gloria jumped up, my mom jumped up, they called the fire department. And by the time I got outside, I could hear the sirens. And they pulled up into our yard, as close to the barn as they could get. And we're running back to where the pond is. And there, on the pond, my sister Jenny is holding Mark's head out of the water. And for reasons that I didn't understand at the time, she was slapping his little face. And he was alert because she was slapping his face. I didn't know that that's what you needed to do if someone is in that situation. So the firemen got there, and the 4 of them were like, well, how should we do this? You know, we might break the ice. And I volunteered to take them the rope, and they just set this little girl, you just sit here. And they decided they would slide a ladder out on the ice, and it held the ladder. And then a fireman eased out, and he said, Jenny, can you grab the ladder? She goes, yes. So she grabbed the ladder. She was still holding Mark. And then he went and he threw a rope, and he goes, can you put the rope around you and Mark? And she did. And then the firemen started pulling Mark and Jenny out of the water on the ladder to the edge. Well, once they got to the edge, they were wrapped in blankets, and the firemen took off running to the ambulances. And my mom and Mrs. Buckle went to the hospital with them. And someone escorted me back to my house, and I was left with other family members that were there. And we waited. Was he going to be okay? Was Ginny going to be okay? Well, that night they came back from the hospital. Mark was okay. They somehow figured he had been in the water for 10 minutes, and they had to slowly warm his body up. But he was going to be all right. Ginny was going to be all right. And being 7, I didn't think anything more about it until the reporters came to the house to take Ginny's picture and to interview her, because the firemen had reported what had happened. And the city of Oakview wanted to recognize the firemen and Ginny for saving Mark's life. Front page news from Racine all the way up to Green Bay. After that, the county of Milwaukee heard about this. And they gave Jennifer this lovely plaque that says, the Milwaukee County Safety Commission hereby honors and gratefully presents the County Executive Safety Award to Jennifer Deneke for outstanding courage, presence of mind, and heroic action displayed in saving Mark Buckle from drowning. And this was presented in May. The drowning incident, it had been November 29th. This caused even more newspaper articles. Now these are almost 60 years old, so they're really fragile. But it talks about local girl saves boy from drowning. Again, front page news. Then the Governor Knowles of Wisconsin, sent Jennifer an enormous award in a glass framed. And again, it spelled out how wonderful she was, how quick thinking, how without concern for her own life, she had saved Mark's life. And in the middle of that award was an itsy bitsy little gold pin, about the size of half my fingernail, and that you could wear, I guess, as a tie tack. We never took it out of the paper. But my sister was a hero. She was recognized at school, at the school assembly, for saving Mark's life. And everywhere they went, they're like, oh, you must be Jennifer. You're such a brave girl. Well, Jennifer was a hero. And later on, I came to find out I wasn't my mother's favorite child. Jennifer reminded me that there had been a few unfortunate accidents or incidents that necessitated her watching me all the time. But I can say that Jenny was my hero. Thank you.